As Chapter 5 comes to an end, I want to say Chapter 5 has been the best 4-season chapter we've had because the way they evolve the story and the map just works really well in Chapter 5 compared to Chapter 4 and Chapter 3, which are the two other one-year chapters. Because in Chapter 3, the map just gets worse over time. The Chapter 4 map, which was already kind of from the start, and then got slowly worse with the weird anime biome and Mega City, which was like less of a actual POI and more of just something that you could look at. Like, it looks pretty, but it's Mega City. Bleh. In season 3, you had the jungle. It was like Dusty Divot and like the season 8 jungle, and it was like a mess. Just in the middle of the map, was so bad. And then season 4 just had these rifted mansions that just destroyed other locations, and it looked so bad. Chapter 5 progresses in a way where each season builds upon the last and usually improves on the last season. Like, Chapter 5 has a very hero's journey kind of story to it, where season 1's pretty basic, but then we get our call to action with Pandora's box, with Valeria, like, getting Pandora's box out of the ground and all that with the hand event. That was, like, the call to action for Chapter 5. The supernatural aid is when the Greek season happened and Hope needed help to defeat Zeus, so maybe we had Every Fish in the Sea is the one for me guy, and, Aphrodite and Hades and all those dudes. The threshold, I would say, is season 3, and now Hope was more important to the storyline. Hope and Jones were like more main characters than they were in season 1 and 2 because we got the voice lines. We got to hear more from them. We got to know their characters better, where Jones was after the events of OG in Chapter 4, since we hadn't really heard from him since Chapter 3, Season 2, when he was in the mech or whatever with us. And then I'd say right now we're in the Death and Abyss, or we will be in the Death and Abyss, when Doctor Doom maybe he does something where Hope is like cornered or like in a bad spot. Maybe like all the superheroes get like killed or something in like a mid-season event or something like that. And probably at some point at the end of season 4, we'll get the rest of the story, which might continue in Chapter 2 OG, or might have a different story in Chapter 2 OG for a little bit. Chapter 3's story doesn't work because Chapter 3 was really meant to be 8 seasons long, but then Donald Mustard stepped down, and I think Epic Games already wanted to kind of do a yearly chapter thing, so they kind of just cut Chapter 3 in half and turn that second half into Chapter 4 and probably move Season 8 to Season 4 and like rush the story out, so it was like it just ended on a bad note in Chapter 3, and it sucks because then Chapter 4 was kind of just like the scraps of Chapter 3 left behind in these like mediocre, like no substance seasons. There was like no, it was like filler. There was nothing going on in Chapter 4. It was like, there was just nothing happening. The map was rushed. There was all these jagged edges. It was all cluttered. It was hard. Like, Zero Build was really difficult in Chapter 4 because of how everything was structured in Chapter 4. It was very much a builds kind of map over Zero Builds. Everything was high mountains with like edges. You couldn't like walk up them like you can in this chapter. Like, you had to like either build or have a mobility item, and it was just not a good map. And plus, from the top, it looked like some baby got like their green beans and their pasta and mashed it together. But Chapter 5 works so well because the story it tells works in 4 seasons. Chapter 3 was meant to be 8 seasons, but then it got cut in half. So you had this one half of the story that got cut off and finished too quickly, and then you had Chapter 4, which practically had no story at all, because what kind of story are you going to tell with the other half of Chapter 4, besides a reason to go back to OG, because your player count's so low, you don't know what to do. So you're like, let's just bring back the old map. Let's do that. Chapter 5 feels like it was like neatly wrapped up and organized and like planned out to be a 4-season chapter. And that's why it just feels better than Chapter 3 and 4 to me. My concern with yearly chapters now is how formulaic they'll be. Ever since Chapter 3 started, we had our season 1s in Christmas time or like New Year's. Season 2 was always in the spring. the season 2's always felt the most boring because it was in the spring and they don't really do Easter events anymore, really. So there's nothing interesting going on in the spring. Summer is either also really boring, but I think ever since Chapter 5, now that they seem to be getting back up on their feet, it feels like they're getting back into the summer seasons being more chaotic. Now, the reason I think they do yearly chapters is for 2 reasons. Besides, money and hype. But the problem was, after Chapter 1, since we didn't really know about chapters at that time, that kind of got away from this thing that I heard from a Clen stream or a Clark Clen stream. I know Clen said it, I don't remember who was streaming, but he said something called chapter bleed, which was something Chapter 2 really suffered from. Even though I love Chapter 2, I think Primal was their only bad season they ever did. After Season 3, I felt like, although a lot of people say they do like the Marvel season, there was a lot of people that also didn't like it because there was a lot of OP powers and stuff. And that's when a lot of people started, not a lot of people, some people started leaving the game at that point in the Marvel collab. They're like, oh, it's ad night. This was the first time we had a big collab in Fortnite. I think a lot of people didn't like it. And then Season 5 rolled around, and they kept doing more collabs, like Halo and Kratos and Predator and all those other collabs they did in Season 5. A lot of people left that season, and throughout 2021 of Chapter 2, it was way less popular. You don't see nearly as many edits of people doing Season 5 or 7 or 8 as much as you would see people doing edits of Season 2, 3, or 4, because a lot of people were either bored of Fortnite at that point, or maybe we're just not far enough into the Chapter 2 nostalgia where you see a lot of people doing nostalgia edits of Invasion. The point is, Chapter Bleed was probably a driving force of why Epic probably wanted to start doing yearly chapters, because, people are not liking this chapter anymore. Hey, new map, new season, new map, new this, new that. Look at all this new stuff. We're done with chapter this, chapter that. We're in a new chapter. Guys, more content, more fun. And I think another reason they're doing it is because Chapter 3, Season 1, was one of the best launches that Fortnite had seen. I think that's probably the best, reception they've seen to a season since early Chapter 2. And I think they want to recreate that Chapter 3, Season 1 vibe, where they go, oh, guys, look, it's the season. Why we reset the map? It's Christmas time, guys. Look, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, guys. It's a simple Season 1, and it's Christmas, and it's nostalgic. Time to tell everyone Fortnite's great and stuff. And but eventually, I know that people, especially me, I'm already getting tired of every Season 1 being in Christmas time. I want that variety. My favorite Season 1 was honestly Chapter 2, Season 1, when they added the Storm King LTM. I liked when Season 1 of Chapter 2 was during Halloween. I thought that was a great Season 1 that we had, which is actually something I really hope they do with this Fortnite. I think that would be really neat if we had a Storm King mode, but it was Mephisto mode, and we have to fight Mephisto instead of Storm King. That would be really cool. But I think what they need to do to fix this repetitive yearly chapter problem is that they need to plan out their seasons more. So, like I said, with the later half of Chapter 2, people kind of checked out in Season 5 after the bombardment and collabs, and especially Season 6. I mean, we all know what happened in Season 6. And by the time Season 7 and 8 rolled around, I think people would just assume, oh, it's bad. And they heard maybe, one guy who, hates anything, wacky in Fortnite goes, all the UFOs are OP, even though they were not OP, dude. And Season 8, people were like, oh, the map was ugly because there's this orange poop on the map, Primal. So people were like, oh, it's bad. Yeah, they just didn't touch the game in Season 8. So I think the way Epic can fix the whole repetitive yearly chapter thing, Season 5 and 6 were 2 mid and bad seasons consecutively in a row, which I think is what makes people check out of Fortnite. If you have 2 lackluster seasons, people will check out of Fortnite. They won't want to play your game after 2 seasons of mid or bad. They need to organize their seasons in a way where they'll be like, okay, we'll have these 2 good seasons, 1 okay or bad season that people might not like, and then we'll have a banger season here. And what they'll do with that to avoid the yearly chapter cycle is that they'll be like, okay, we'll have maybe season 1's okay, season 2 and 3 are really good, season 4 maybe is okay, but now we'll do season 5 and 6, which are really good, and maybe 6 will be the finale season instead of season 4, and then we can go into a spring chapter, a spring season 1, like that. We'll have a spring season 1, and maybe we'll go into like chapter 7 or 8, and maybe it's 7 seasons long this time, and we have the last season. Dude, imagine if we had a chapter 7, season 7, and they bring back the 7, and last time we saw them, they got destroyed by the Chrome. Maybe they're back, but now they're evil Chrome 7 or something. They're evil 7, Last Reality 7. Maybe if people do want more seasons, I think some seasons can be shorter than others based on the amount of content they have. Like, I think season 1 should always be a little shorter than they are because they're really basic and they don't add too much to the game. Like, I think a season 1 could be maybe like a month and a half or just 2 months long instead of 2.5 months like most of the seasons are nowadays. I honestly think if we had the shortest chapters at 4 seasons and the longest being 8, if like you could like flip-flop between 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 seasons, I think that would make Fortnite feel really fresh. If you like this and agree with me, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to share this video, like, subscribe, and keep up to date with me. And I'll see you guys next time.